All right, today what we're going to be learning about is our new unit, which are polynomial operations, and we're going to focus on exponent properties and introduce you to polynomials. So a polynomial is an expression made up of a monomial or the sum or difference of monomials. So remember, sum or difference of monomials. So polynomial can be based on its degree and its number of terms. And so when we name a polynomial by degree, use the degree of the term with the highest, so the largest exponent. So here's some examples of naming by term. So if it's one term, it's a monomial, which makes sense with your prefixes. 2 terms, it's a binomial. 3 terms, it's a trinomial. And if it's 4 or more terms, we say it's a polynomial. And then that's how many terms. So the terms are separated with a plus or a minus if there's more than one term. And then for the degree, we're looking at the exponent. So if there's no exponent, it's the constant. So that would be like 9. If the exponent is 1, whoops, I was going to write that down. So example, oops. So if it's linear, that would just be as x. If it's quadratic, that would be x squared. And if it's cubic, or whatever variable you choose, if it's cubic, that would have an exponent of 3. All right, so now I already listed this, so go ahead and write these down, but we're going to look at this. And our first is a polynomial. So when you're looking at this, you'll see first that there are 2 terms, and you know that there's 2 different terms because it's separated with the plus sign. So you've got 2 here, and we said that 2 is a binomial. Bi means 2. And for degree, the largest exponent, in this case, x has an exponent of 1, even though we don't see it. It is there if you have an x, and then that would be linear. All right, so now let's look at this next one. So we're going to look at, since it's more than one term, we've got a minus here and a plus here. So that's going to separate our terms. So we have 3 terms, which is a trinomial. And then now for the degree, since we want the largest exponent, in this case we have a 1 here. This doesn't have a variable, and this exponent is 2. So this is the largest, which makes it a quadratic. And then here you have 3 terms, which makes it a trinomial. And then the largest degree also is a 2, because that exponent's a 2, that exponent's a 1. So we go with the largest one, which is quadratic. All right, now again, I only see 1 minus sign here, so I have 2 terms. It's a binomial, and your highest degree here is 3, which makes it cubic. Now, in this case, there are no plus or minus signs separating it, so it's a monomial, and the degree is 1, which makes it linear. Now, if you notice here, there's no variable, so we don't have an x. No variable here, so it is one term, which is a, oops, I spelled that wrong, which is a monomial. There you go. But since there's no variable, that means your degree is 0, which means it's a constant. So this has no variable attached with a constant. So make sure you get all that written down. All right, so now simplifying monomials. This is kind of a review of your exponent properties, so you've done this before. So just remember, in this case, 3 is the base, and then 4 is the exponent. And so what this is doing is saying you're writing your base of 3 4 times. And then when you multiply them out to get the value, it's 81. All right, so let's get started with the review. First, you have your product of powers. So if you're multiplying the same base, you add the exponents. Now I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can think about it. One way is we're multiplying the same base, is just to expand it out. So in this case, I can write 4 5 times. And then I can write 4 3 times. And all you have to do is just add how many 4s are there, which is 8. So this would be 4 to the 8th power. Now, the product of power rule is if you're multiplying the same base, you just take the exponents and add them because they're both a base of 4. So all you got to do is add your exponents, which give you 8. So either way works, but this is the shortcut. And if you get stuck, this is your backup plan. So if you have a total brain fart, use the backup plan and expand it. Otherwise, if you're multiplying the same base, add the exponents. All right, now I want you to go ahead. I want you to try this way. I will give you a hint. If there is no exponent written, write in an exponent of 1. So you can do it either this way or you can do it this way, but I want you to try the product rule of powers. All right, so now let's go over here. And notice we have the same base of -5. And if there is no exponent written, write in an exponent of 1. So I've got 1 and 3, and I'm going to add them together, which is 4. Now we're going to leave this in parentheses right now, because when you put this in the calculator, make sure you have parentheses around it, because it's actually, -5 times -5 times -5 times -5. So just be careful, because if you forget the parentheses, it's going to give you -625. All right, I want you to try this one. You're multiplying. And then now let's go ahead. Let's do power rule. So power rule says if you're taking an exponent and raising it to another exponent, you multiply. So again, I'm going to show you 2 different ways. One way is we can write our base 5 squared 3 times. And then, now that you got that, take your exponents since you have the same base and just add your exponents. That's one way to do it. The power rule, though, says you multiply your exponents. So you keep the base the same, and you're only multiplying that, which would give you 5 to the 6th power. So you get the same answer either way, but this is the shortcut, and this is always the backup. All right, so I want you to try this problem. You can do either way. And then I want to do this problem just because it has a negative in here. So we're taking -2, which is the base, to the 3rd power, and we're taking all of that to the 6th power. So all we're going to do, think of it as distributing. You're not technically distributing it, but if you think of this as you distribute a number outside of parentheses to everything to the exponents inside, that's kind of what you're doing. So we're going to take these 2, we're going to multiply them together, we're going to keep the base the same. Then once we multiply it, we get 18. Now, when you put in the calculator, make sure you put parentheses around the -2, and then you're going to get this number, 262,144. All right, now this one's a little tricky, but you can do that. So write the base 4 times, and then take that. So really keep the base as is and just multiply. All right, now let's go ahead and let's go with a little bit trickier one. So again, remember, if there is no exponent written, make sure you write a 1 in to each exponent that does not have it. And we're going to take this outside, and we're doing the power rule, and you're just multiplying it to each part. So keep the bases the same. And I've got 1 times 4, keep the base the same, 1 times 4, keep the base the same, and then once you simplify it, you can do that. Now you can actually multiply this out more and make this 81, but this is fine for now. All right, I want you to go ahead and try this, but again, remember, if it does not have an exponent, write an exponent in. All right, now again, since this has a negative inside the parentheses, remember the parentheses hold the negative to it. Think of it like it's a glue sticking it together. So what we're going to do is we have -3. It's to the 1st power, so we're writing that 1 in, and then y to the 4th power. So we're going to take this 2, and we're going to multiply it. And then we're taking this 2, multiply. And then now, again, watch your parentheses. That negative is stuck to the 3. So you're going to get 9y to the 8th power. All right, I want you to try this. Now be careful. Notice this negative is outside the parentheses. So the only thing that is here should be the 1. And the only thing here, and you just bring the negative down last. All right, so check yourself on that one. And now let's do multiple properties. So for this first one, what we're going to do is think of it almost like an order of operations, where you're going to do your multiplying first, and then once you simplify that, you're going to get x to the 8th power, y to the 2nd power, and then I'm just bringing this down, and I'm bringing this down. Now, these are the same base, so you can actually add those two together, which will give you 7. And then this, oops, did I forget an 8? I think I forgot an 8 somewhere. There we go. So this is, I'll rewrite that. Ugh, why does that look big? Okay, I'll do it this way. There you go. Beautiful. So then this is our final answer here. All right, now this is important that when we get here, we'll talk about this in a second. But first, we have everything raised to the power. So we're distributing. And remember, if it's not written, write a 1 in. And you're going to get 2 to the 3rd, x to the 6th, y to the 15th. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to write in our exponents of 1 and then multiply 2 times each thing. All right, now let's go ahead and let's start combining our like bases. So I have my x here, and since we're multiplying between, you're going to add. So I've got 6 plus 2 with the base of x. Now for y, I've got a 15 and a 2. So I've got 8 and 17. Now, this is very important. If you notice, 2 and 3 are not like bases. So you can't combine them. You can only simplify and then multiply once they're simplified. So 2 to the 3rd is 8. 3 squared is 9. And then you can do 8 times 9, which is 72. But you have to simplify first. You cannot combine like bases. And then once we get everything done, this is your final answer. All right, this one, go ahead, try this one. I will give you the hint with the 1/2. Remember, it's 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 because you've got 3 times. So be careful here. You got an exponent here, and you got an exponent down there. All right, so go ahead, try that one. And then I do want you to write this somewhere, either the front of the page or down here at the bottom. But remember, if no exponent is written, put a 1 as the exponent. A common mistake is kids forget to either add it, or when we get into the other properties, they forget to do that, or multiply, divide, whatever. So just make sure if no exponent is written, write 1 as your exponent. All right, and that is your review of exponent properties in learning about polynomials.